And in which war did you serve?
World War II.
And what branch of the service?
The Army and the Signal Corps.
What was your highest rank?
Sergeant.
Can you tell me how you got into the service?
I was drafted.
Do you recall where you were living at the time?
No, I tried to volunteer once. My eyesight was too poor to be accepted, so then they drafted me.
Wow. Where were you living at the time?
Yonkers, New York.
And that was in 1943?
Correct.
Can you tell me about your first days in service? Where did you go for your basic training and what was that like?
Basic training was Camp Edison, New Jersey. Horrible.
Elaborate on that, please.
Well, first they kept you awake for about a day and a half, and then they gave you aptitude tests, etc. And then you were very tired when you got there, and you went in, and they gave you written exams to fill out about your background, this, that, things the Army wanted to know, thought they were special.
What was the physical training like? What kinds of things did they teach you?
The physical training was difficult, but I enjoyed it because I was in great shape from college, playing baseball and everything else, so I didn't mind the physical training. I enjoyed it.
How many weeks were you at Camp Edison?
13.
After basic training, where did you go?
Well, I was a genius, so I went in the Army in April 43. And I was in Camp Stallman, California about 13 weeks later. And about 3 months after that, I was on my way to Australia.
How long were you at Camp Stallman?
13 weeks.
What did you do there?
About the same thing I've been doing before, climbing up ropes, fences, barriers, etc. Just for, like, they called it advanced basic training.
At that point, did you know you were going to be going overseas?
Yes. I didn't know it positively, but it was a very good bet.
After Camp Stallman, did you have time to go home first, or did they ship you right off?
Well, before I went to Camp Stallman, I had 72 hours off.
72 hours so you could make a quick visit home? Now, you said that you were in college. When they drafted you, you were attending college?
Yes.
What college were you going to?
City College of New York.
How did you get from Camp Stallman to Australia? Do you remember?
With a marvelous World War I converted German boat. And on the 23-day trip from Camp Stallman to Australia, the bottom half of my body was constantly wet. And when I got off the ship, I could barely walk. And I was dragging 2 barracks bags behind me because I couldn't lift them. And some officer was screaming at me, "Soldier, get out of line." And first he said, "Tote those bags." I said, "I think you better tote them yourself because I can't lift them."
And did he?
No. I dragged them to the medical shack that he made me go to, where some
sick?
Army major, the physician, told me, "Son, you got arthritis." Well, I can't say what I answered him because I major, you're full of something or other. Because I'm 20-something years old.
So what did they do for you?
They gave me some pills and told me to go back to work.
What was your job at that point?
Really nothing. I was just a replacement at that point, so I really didn't know.
You were a replacement, so did you go over with a unit or as an individual?
I went over with two other gentlemen.
Where did
They
you...
knew talent when they saw it.
Where did they put you to replace? What unit?
I finally ended up with the Signal Corps.
Where did you arrive in Australia?
Brisbane, Australia. And then
How long?
actually, I arrived in Sydney, Australia, and then went to Brisbane the same day.
How long did you stay in Brisbane?
I was there about 3 weeks.
In that 3-week period, what were your duties?
Little or nothing. We just sat around.
After the 3 weeks, where did you go?
Port Moresby, New Guinea.
And what were your duties there?
There I was a switchboard operator.
Had you been trained in that back in the United States during that training at Camp Stolman?
Somewhat, yes.
How long did you stay on New Guinea as a switchboard operator?
I was there almost a year.
Wow. All right, so as a switchboard operator, can you tell me what your duties were and describe a typical day for you? What did you have to do as a switchboard operator?
Answer telephone calls that everybody was making all over the island.
So had they already set up the communication lines and their telephone system was in place?
Yes, my job was to improve it and make it work better.
Were you located at one office the entire time, or were you out in the
Well,
field?
there was a company that you were attached to, and there was a company street, which was infiltrated regularly by the Japanese. So you always had to carry a gun at the ready. And especially if you were going down to the switchboards, which was underground. You can't really call it underground. You had a good jump down about 4 steps. And then you were lower than the rest of the terrain. And then you were hoping that nobody would infiltrate and take a shot at you because you had a light on to see the switchboard. So it was like a beacon.
So describe to me what it looked like for people, and even people, today's generation don't know what a switchboard is. How big was the room? How many operators would be in there at one
The
time?
switchboard was the size of those 2 screens, which I should say about 2.5 feet. And about the same height, about 2 feet high.
And would there only be one operator in the room at one time?
At a time, yes.
How many phones would you be responsible for?
Pardon me?
How many phones would you be responsible for?
Lord knows. The whole island would come through there.
So that was the only switchboard. That was the main switchboard for the
As far
entire
as
island.
as far as the Army was concerned, yes.
What was your shift? I don't think you were working a 9 to 5.
Usually 12-hour shifts.
Did you have days
So
or
you
nights?
work from
or did you
midnight to 12 the next day, and then 12 to midnight. And sometimes we got a break where we could cut it down to 8 or 9 hours.
What kinds of calls would you get? Can you remember any specific calls or any momentous calls?
The sergeant wanted to talk to the lieutenant wanted to talk to the captain wanted to talk to the major, and God knows where the major was.
Was it your job to find him?
Not really. I just had to call the one number that we had. If somebody was there, fine. If not, you would leave a message urgent to call.
While you were on duty as a switchboard operator, do you have any memorable incidents, things that occurred?
Yeah, well, once I swore out of surprise when I was talking to the colonel. So I said, it's the colonel. And he screaming in his phone, "Who is this?" And I hung up right away.
Did he know it was you?
No. You get lucky sometimes.
Do you recall any other memorable incidents?
No, people get excited most of the time about very little. They thought something was happening. It wasn't.
Now, when you were off duty, where did you sleep? Did you have barracks?
We had tents. And when we were set up a little bit better, you slept on a cot. Before that, you slept in your sleeping bag.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions about daily life. While you were over there on New Guinea, how'd you stay in touch with your family?
What we call V-mail.
What was the food like? Did you have a dining hall or did you have rations?
No, there was a tent that was set up for meals. Usually you brought your mess kit down, threw the stuff in. If you liked it, you ate it. If it didn't. I remember one night I think I counted once, was 43 nights, they served chili con carne. And after the first 4 or 5 days, I walked around with perpetual heartburn. So I used to tell a couple of friends, "You going down for dinner? Yeah, good. Bring me back some bread." And that's what I would eat. Bread with some K rations.
Did they have 3 meals a day?
Yes.
Did you have enough supplies?
I think I was down 112 pounds there as a result of the great diet.
How about other supplies, equipment?
You had everything came from Australia. So Australian made, etc.
No shortages?
Much different taste than the U.S. food.
As a switchboard operator, did you also have to know how to fix the equipment?
Not major, minor stuff, yes.
Did you do anything special for good luck?
Yeah, prayed a lot.
How did you handle
I never was really that concerned
Really?
about it, figuring if the Lord wants you, He'll take you. I didn't even think about it. And I was shot at, I was bombed, I was strafed. Pardon me?
You weren't concerned that there were Japanese on the island and possibly...
Oh yeah, that we're always concerned about, because at night you had to be careful, they infiltrated.
Was that stressful?
Yes.
How did you handle the stress?
Grin and bear it.
When you weren't on duty at the switchboard, what did you do?
Handled the calls that were coming in or going out. And you were lower than the ground because it was dug in. And a light was on so you could see it. So you just always concerned that some Jap could take a shot at you or what. That went with the territory. You stopped thinking about it.
When you were off duty, what did you do for entertainment?
Slept, read. That's about it.
Did you see any USO shows?
I'm trying to recall whether it was because of television later on that I remembered or what. But I know that Bob Hope, Francis Langford was there for one performance there.
New Guinea?
I really don't recollect if I saw it in person or I saw it later on when they were repeating it years later.
Did you go on any leave?
Yes, I was sent for, twice I was sent for 3-day sick leave to Camp McKay, Australia. Sent you down there to get some fresh milk, this, that. So the food was good.
So both of those 3-day leaves were for sick?
Well, they called it sick leave. I wasn't sick, but it was my turn to go. They let you go every so often.
And
I guess they give you a change of pace and have you eat something.
Did you go as an individual or did you go with a group?
I think I went with just 2 or 3 other people, same thing.
While you were there in Australia, did you get to visit around the country at all?
Get to what?
Go around the country at all? See any other parts of Australia?
Not from Camp McKay.
You just stayed at the camp?
When I arrived in Australia, I landed in Sydney and then I went to Brisbane. So I got to know Brisbane more than any place else. And at least you could go in and have some waitress ask you, "Hi, mate, what'll be steak and eggs?" "Hi, mate, what'll be steak and eggs?" First, the first 2-3 times you didn't know what she was talking about.
Now you, when were you promoted? Because you ended up a sergeant.
I think in New Guinea.
Was there a ceremony or?
I also, when I was still in the States, they weren't very happy with me. I turned down OCS 3 times.
Why?
I didn't want to be an officer. Listen, if you were in Europe and a second lieutenant, you didn't have a good lifespan. And I really wasn't interested in ordering everybody around.
What was your opinion of the officers that you served under?
Some very good. A few I wondered how they got there.
Do you recall any specific officers?
Our first lieutenant was a commanding officer when I was in New Guinea. I think I still recollect his name as Rabin-WWII.
And what can you tell me about him?
WWII. Well, he was either very brave or crazy. Okay, because when the air raids came, which were, night and day, sporadically, you never knew when or where, and he built a wooden lean-to like this, but higher, and he used to stand and lean back on it and watch the airplanes firing bullets at us all over the place. He used to just stand there and marvel. I used to say, how do you do this? I said, I at least get a 4-6 inches on the ground where I lie down, etc. So they really got to aim. Instead of, I said, you stand there like this? He says, I was in the Battle of Britain. This is nothing. Well, in the Battle of Britain, he had many, many planes. Here it would be 1 at a time, 2 at a time, etc.
Wow.
He also showed me how I never took advantage of it, but he also showed me how to go into the little bit of the wild near us, not that far, probably like from across the street here, and rub the native flora on you so you get inflamed, and then you go on sick leave and they send you to England, which they did with him. He wanted to get back to England.
And that's what he did?
Yes.
Did you try it?
No. I had enough with jungle right there without putting any of that junk on me. Of course, I walked around, my underarms, my groin were like 2 pieces of red steak from the tropics. which is, I was lucky. The only thing I got over there is very bad dermatitis. You could go crazy with it. And I had impetigo in the face. They were picking the beard out, the forceps in the hospital there. And, in fact, the nurse was very complimentary. I'm doing this very carefully because you're very good looking and I don't want to scar your face.
You had nurses over there?
Yeah, in the hospital.
What can you tell me about the island of New Guinea and the size of our force and what we had for facilities there?
Let's put it this: if I didn't like somebody, they were my worst enemy, I would send them to New Guinea. All right. There's nothing to do. It's the old jungle. It's humid. It rains a lot, if not all the time. It rains. This mist comes down, could drive you nuts. And I was very uncomfortable there because I was all eaten up on. But I was lucky. My brother was in the service. He caught dengue, malaria, yellow fever. He caught everything. I only got jungle rot. In fact, he was attached to the infantry. I was attached to the signal corps. And then we were attached to the Air Force. We ate better than any other time because they brought in the plane. They brought in what they wanted.
Did you ever end up in the same place that your brother was during the war?
No, I visited him at a place, it's a speck in the Pacific called Goodenough Island. And through the Red Cross, I got special permission to go visit him. And he was with the infantry. So we're walking along, going to the men's hall, and an individual walks by, and my brother salutes. So I'm looking at him. Where I was in the Signal Corps, we didn't salute officers. I mean, everybody was in the same boat. So he said to me, "What did they teach you in the Army? Did they teach you to salute an officer?" I says, "Where I am, we don't salute." So he says, "Well, if you're with me and you're here you salute."
So how far, you went from New Guinea to Goodenough Island?
Yeah.
Were they fairly close?
About a 2.5 hour plane trip with the Army planes.
So the Army flew you over there. How long? And you spent a couple days?
I spent 3 days.
You saw how the infantry lived.
Pardon me?
And you saw how the infantry lived.
Oh yeah. Much tougher.
That must have been a treat for your brother.
A treat for both of us.
Yeah. What was your opinion of your fellow soldiers?
Mostly good. Some goof-offs.
Did you make any friendships while you were in the service?
Yeah, I made a couple of friends. We happened to go overseas together. And then we were separated. And then we saw each other after the war. When the three of us went over, you chat. Okay, what would you like to do after the war? I said, I want to be a lawyer. Bill said he wanted to be a doctor. And Eddie said he wanted to be an engineer. And after the war, all of us became what we wanted to be.
Did you stay in touch after the war?
I stayed in touch. The three of us stayed in touch for about 5-6 years. After that, I stayed in touch with Eddie, and I became his lawyer, and I represented him. And family were friends, and things happened. He died.
Did you go to any reunions after the war?
How much am I being paid for this? Well,
Are you by the hour? Did you go to any reunions after the war?
No. I don't even know if we had any.
If your unit had any. What can you tell me about the Signal Corps as a specific branch of the Army? What was the Signal Corps?
From what I could see, the people were well trained and did a good job.
How were you selected to be in the Signal Corps? Did you have any prior training? Did you have an aptitude for that from the test you took?
Well, when
did you choose it, or did they?
When you
choose
take your aptitude tests, it's like after you've been up for like 2 days. So they want you at your best, So I don't really know how I got in the Signal Corps. I figured, my opinion of the Army is that if 100 people went in, and if the Army needed 100 cooks that week, you became a cook. Because there's no way in the slightest imagination somebody could think that I work well with my hands and can handle wires and everything else.
You don't think that showed up on your aptitude test?
I don't know what showed up. If it did, it was a mistake.
Did you use...
I mean, my son will tell you how handy I am with everything.
Did you use your
I mean,
training?
I can screw in a light bulb, otherwise leave me alone.
Did you use any of your training that you did learn while you were in the service, later in life?
Yeah, I tried. After I got shocked a few times, I gave up.
Were you in combat at all?
Yeah, I was shot at, I was bombed, I was strafe, the whole works.
Well, could you tell me about a couple of those incidents?
Well, the one incident I can tell you about that sticks in my mind, I'd like to find a Japanese pilot and strangle him, but he's probably as old as I am. And it was very difficult to keep non-sweated up and messy. Okay, so one day I took a nice shower. I was off, took a nice shower. I put on a brand new set of suntans. Okay, I'm walking with my mess kit down the company street to go for dinner, and all of a sudden, 2 Japanese planes come in, strafing this and that, and fell straight down on the ground into a nice big puddle of dirty water, and got up, and I cursed that pilot like crazy.
Was that common to have them flying over strafing?
Yeah, it was a regular thing. It wasn't, you wouldn't say it was every day, but you never knew when.
Day and
It was
night?
too often to be comfortable.
And was it day and night?
Yeah.
Were
Well, at
there
night
any-
you would get mostly the high bombers who make life pleasant.
Were there any casualties in your unit?
Yeah, here and there. No big thing at any one time. It was like sporadic.
Once you were set up and you were on the island and you were set up, you said at first it was sleeping bags on the ground,
Yeah.
and then
After that, there was a cot with a tent.
in your entire time on New Guinea, you slept in a cot in a tent?
Yeah. That was when it was good.
What other amenities did you have for living conditions? If you call a cot an amenity.
You had an outhouse. That was it.
How many men would you say approximately were in?
90 to 100.
Did you work with any of the other allies? Were any of the Australians or the Brits there at the same time, or was it all Americans?
Say that again.
Did you work with any of our allies, either the Brits or the Australians, or was it all Americans?
Yeah, we saw Australians. You worked with them occasionally. Funny people, nice people, strong people.
Do you have any other memorable incidents from when you were on New Guinea?
My most memorable incident is how horrible the climate is. And when I read today, people are going there for vacation. I think you got rocks in their head.
You were there for an entire year?
Yes.
So you saw the climate year round.
Oh,
Was it
yeah.
always the same? Did it ever get
Always
better?
miserable.
And rain every day?
Almost, yeah, practically. If it wasn't rain, it was a mist.
Did you interact
And
with
I walked around like this there.
Did you interact with the indigenous people there at all?
No.
You had U.S. had their base, and you guys all stayed on base. You said you were in college when you left, and that you had said you wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Were you in law school? Had you decided before you even got in the service that you wanted to be a lawyer? Or did you decide when you were in the service?
How truthful am I supposed to be?
Truthful.
Lay it all out.
I had, I think, about 15 months of college. When I came back, a very dear family friend, who sometimes was a father figure, because my dad died when I was 13 and a half. And when I came back, I said, I got to go back and finish college. He says to me, no. I found out that it's possible, with your grades, to apply to Albany, and you get a law student's qualifying certificate. So I'm unusual. I had 15 months of college. When I came back from the Army, I applied and went right into NYU Law School. Never got a college degree.
You went right to law school? And graduated from law school?
Cum laude,
Four of you.
which shows how much college is needed.
Wow.
And then I got my Master of Laws. I'm probably the only lawyer I know who had 15 months of college.
Probably the only one I know too. Did you go back to
Which probably shows you how necessary it is.
Did you go to law school on the GI Bill?
Yes.
After your service in New Guinea, where did you go?
Morotai in the Netherlands, East Indies, the Philippines, and Japan.
All right, so go back to Morotai first. How long were you there?
Probably a year.
Oh,
Almost, I guess.
And what were your duties there? Switchboard operator again? And how was that different than New Guinea?
Busier, that's all.
Bigger?
I mean-
Was the base larger?
A little bit larger.
Living conditions, were they the same or any better?
Better than New Guinea. The climate alone was jungle right east, so the climate was better for that. It really didn't get better till I went up to the Philippines.
Were there any memorable incidents occurred on Morotai?
Yeah, we were bombed a lot.
Did you go there with the same guys, the same unit from New Guinea? The whole bunch of you left?
Half and half. There were replacements in me.
After that year, where did you go?
Clarkfield, Manila.
And what was that like?
Busy. We could handle communications for the whole airfield.
So that had to be a lot bigger.
Pardon me?
That had to be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So describe what that whole setup was like there and what you did there.
Well, Clarkfield was a bigger setup. Much busier, and you're handling traffic from Manila, and then from Milne Bay, MILNE.
What was your office like at Clark Field? Did you have a building? You weren't still in that little hole underground, were you?
So in Clarkfield, you were above ground,
Was it a building?
which was as much pleasure from before. And it was still a tent, but a much more substantial setup, bigger.
Again, was it just one switchboard and one operator working at a time?
At a time, yes. But you had a double switchboard, like you handled more.
When you would be in work, would you be constantly busy with calls? Would you ever have a break time? Or like, you wouldn't receive a call for 20
If you
minutes?
took a break, it better be in about a minute.
Oh. So there was never like a half-hour period of time where there weren't any calls coming
No,
or
what we
going?
tried to do was have somebody come in and spell you after 3-4 hours. So let you get something to eat and come back.
Any memorable calls while you were at Manila?
Too many of the officers were always back and forth all over the place. And sometimes they get busy with their personal lives. This one had a date with the nurse, and this one this, and this one that. I was thinking of writing a gossip column, but I figured you'd get in trouble.
Back then? After the Philippines, so how long did you stay there?
Philippines, I was there almost a year.
Oh. So you were overseas for at least 3 years then.
Almost 3 years.
Wow. After the Philippines, where did you go?
Japan.
Where in Japan?
Osaka.
Was this after the war ended? Had they already had the surrender?
Well, it was after the Japanese surrendered.
And so you were going with the occupation force?
Saw a city, it was complete rubble.
Can you describe it a little more detailed?
Well, we got off and you looked. You couldn't see because you were down low and the island was up higher. When you got up there, we were on land, you could see. It looked like the place was demolished, building after building, whatever was there. Concrete, this, that. It was all on the ground. I mean, it really looked like a place that had been bombed to death.
Did you have to set up communications there?
Yes.
Because there probably was nothing there already from the Americans.
Well, we set up like we always did first. We set up a tent, put in equipment, etc.
How long were you at Osaka?
You know, at 39, it's hard to remember all these things.
Well, was it like days or weeks or months?
I don't think I was there more than 4 or 5 months.
So you were there for
Then
a
we
few
went up
months.
because I would say top 6 months, and then we went up to Japan.
In that 6 months, was it business as usual? You would go in and man the switchboard once it was set up?
Pretty much as usual. And then they sent you people to train. Got to Osaka, they were sending people to be trained in this and that.
What were your living conditions like then? If the whole place was bombed out, did you have to set up tents and sleep on cots again?
Yeah, we're never in a real building or anything.
So you were never, in your whole time in the service, you were never in barracks where you had a real bed?
No.
When you were in Osaka, the war was over, so there was no threat, or at least immediate threat.
Well, we weren't being bombed, if you want
You
to
weren't
put
being
it.
bombed, you weren't being strafed. Did you have more freedom to wander around on your own when you were not working?
Wasn't much to do there.
Oh,
You know, I think somebody had opened up what they called a nightclub or something for the soldiers, this and that, but nothing worthwhile.
how did they determine who would rotate back to the States? And in what order?
I think with a Ouija board. God knows. First they said the ones who had length in service would be given a priority. Then they changed that. Then they said no. Then they said yes. Till they hacked out a policy. Took another bunch of months.
So you really didn't know when you were going to be going home?
No. Well, that's better than them telling you you're going home on X dates and then telling you it's canceled.
That's true. When you finally did ship home, was it what kind of a ship did you come back on?
Beautiful.
Really?
The U.S. aircraft carrier Lexington.
And what was that
And
one?
my cot, they gave you cots. My cot was right the church part. So I heard the Catholic priest and the Protestant priest and somebody who was substituting as a rabbi. Okay. And the Buddhists came and talked. I mean, I got exposed to all kinds of religion.
And then how long did it take? There wasn't a 23-day trip.
And some of them were, one of them was not too brilliant because all he stressed was you should associate with your own kind and nobody else. Male and female, your own kind, your own kind. So, and after being shot at, bombed and strafed, he says, this is what I said.
Where did you land in the United States?
San Francisco.
From San Francisco, where did you go? Were you discharged right there at San Francisco? No? So where'd you go then?
They sent me on a very beautiful train called the Challenger. And that was nice living because you could go to the car and have lunch, and it was really nice. And from California to New York, which I think was 5 days. 5 or 6.
And when you arrived in New York, where did you go? Were you discharged at that point?
No. It was near Fort Dix, as I recollect.
Did you have to, so you're still in the Army, did you have to stay on a base and
Yes.
so where did you stay? Fort Dix?
In a building.
Did you have any duties?
And there you ate well. Nothing, just hang around and wait. They said you could go home.
How long did you have to hang around and wait?
I was lucky. It was about 3-4 weeks.
That was it? And you had no duties during that time? Could you leave base? Or you had to stay right there?
You could only leave if you got a special pass, which they handled you out like once every 10 days.
Well, that was close enough for you to go home. Did you go home when you got that special pass?
Yeah.
So when you finally got your discharge, that was in December
12/27.
of 45?
Who remembers? Yes.
Wow. a great day. Do you remember your last day in service, what it was like?
Yeah, I was looking at my watch. When the hell can I get out of here?
How long did it take?
A few days after you got your pass.
So on your discharge day, did you just
Yeah, you could take, once you had that discharge paper, you could take off.
and go home? So you went home after that.
Yes.
Did you immediately go into law school, or did you take time
I was
off?
discharged 12/27, and I started law school the beginning of February.
February of
I was rather in a rush
46. You knew you wanted to be a lawyer right from the beginning, or not until you came home?
from the beginning, since I was 7. So my sisters told me. That's my mother told me.
We'll always believe your sisters.
And I carried this disease into the entire family. Lawyer, gonna be a lawyer.
I see.
Or a doctor.
All right, so then after the war, you went through law school.
I'm trying to think now. 1, 2, 4. Besides Alan, Chuck, and you two, any other lawyers in the family?
Eric?
What?
Eric.
No. I was the first lawyer in the family.
You were the first one, and then you've created a family of lawyers.
Now we're evidently going to have 5 or 6.
How many years did you practice law?
I think more than you're old.
A lot.
Let's see, I was admitted in 1948. I'm still a lawyer.
Once a lawyer, always a lawyer. So you were admitted to the bar in 1948?
Right.
When did you become a judge?
1969 was when I was elected to the first judgeship.
And where was this?
Yonkers.
And
I ran and won. And then the next 2 terms, I was endorsed by all the parties. So I didn't have to run. And then I ran for gave up the practice of law, and I ran for the full-time judgeship.
and you're still sitting on the bench?
Gonna do it till I get it right.
How did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military?
Well, made me believe if you have responsibility, your obligations to carry it out to the best of your ability.
Did you join any veterans organizations after the war?
I joined 2,
Which ones?
but I never went to meetings.
Are you still a member?
Yes.
Which 2 did you join?
Bayard Post and Post 1666.
Is that a VFW post or
Pardon
American
me?
Legion?
One is American Legion, the other is the other one.
And you're not active in any veterans organizations?
I was always busy, active in other things. And I really didn't want to hear any war stories.
Are you in touch now with anybody from the war days?
Ain't here no more.
How would you say that your military service affected your life?
So you learn that you had to do what you're supposed to be doing. Do your job. Do it to the best of your ability. And if you complain, nobody's going to listen anyway.
Is there anything else that you can recall? Any other memorable incidents that we haven't talked about?
Only one. The fact that you put on a uniform is not going to change the basic human being. If you were stupid when you were in civilian clothes, you're stupid with a military one. All right? If you're untrustworthy one way, you're going to be untrustworthy the other way. You bring your background, your training, your education, your religious upbringing. It's all a package. Hopefully, somebody built a good package. Because you didn't do it by yourself. And along the way, I had some very nice people. Friend of the family who helped, etc. You know. You learn one thing. You got a couple lucky breaks, give them to somebody else.
Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you'd like to discuss or talk about?
Yes, I have a great family.
Yeah, I can see half of them right here. Well, I'd like to thank you for your service to our country.
My wife, may she rest in peace, put in a lot of work in the kids, and it shows. I mean, I was more busy running around with everything.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.